Today we're going to predict every single remaining result in the Premier League and see how the table unfolds. There's 10 games of the season left. The Premier League title race is one of the best we've seen in years. Relegation still up for grabs, and so a Champions League spot. So let's see what happens and how many I get right/wrong. I can't see myself getting many right. I never do. As you can see here, we have got the game weeks. We've got the table, and as I enter scores, the table will adjust. So I'm going to go through predicting score lines. You'll see the table adjust. I'm probably not going to show every single prediction because we'll be here all day. Some of the mid-table teams might sort of become afterthoughts. But the top teams, the bottom teams, European spots, we're concentrating on. We have to jump back a little bit first to match week 26, an unplayed game between Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur. And Tottenham's form's been a bit iffy, isn't it? 5 wins in their last 10 games. Chelsea weirdly turn up against the better teams. They're not as good against low blocks under Mauricio Pochettino. They weren't very good against low blocks under Graham Potter before that as well. But I think against Tottenham, they might get something from this game. We saw them go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Yes, there was red cards galore, but they still scored goals, didn't they? I'm going to go for a Desmond here, I think. I'm going to go 2-2. Moving forward, there's still games to be caught up on. The reason that these games have got to be caught up on is because, FA Cup might have pushed it, League Cup, European nights. These things affect the Premier League scheduling, so there's still games to catch up on. Arsenal against Chelsea. This is a huge game. And Arsenal, frankly, have been on ridiculous form, haven't they? Since that FA Cup exit to Liverpool, I think it's 9 wins in 10. The defence, what has happened there? I mean, by XG, if you went XG per 90 across their last 10 games and expanded that throughout the whole season, they'd be on course to concede 12 goals by XG. 12, man. The defensive unit has been ridiculous. The attacking unit has suddenly started scoring goals. They've got 34 in their last 10. I think they've scored over 4 goals in 5 games of their last 10 matches. They're just on fire. And I think they'll have too much for Chelsea. As much as I spoke about Chelsea being better in the big games, I just think they'll have too much for them. There is something around Chelsea's mentality as well, I feel, that if Arsenal go ahead early, I could see Chelsea capitulating a little bit. I'm going to go 3-1. As you can see, I've just thrown a couple of other results in there because these sort of teams, I can't see them being involved in a relegation scrap or a European fight. Maybe Newcastle just. But we're going to go to the bottom of the table / the top of the table, the Merseyside derby. And frankly, Everton at home this season haven't been good enough. We think about Goodison Park being a fortress, don't we? They've only won 3 Premier League games there all season. They haven't won a game in their last 10. Form has really dropped off, and to be honest with you, they're not scoring enough goals. They've scored just 6 across the last 10 games. I think that is the lowest in the division by a mile. I think the lowest in the division by 5 goals, something like that. The XG underperformance is astonishing. 20 goals less than they should have scored this season. The finishing's not been good enough. If you took into account sort of XG and XG against, they're like a mid-table, upper mid-table side. But the finishing, it's just been horrendous. And I just don't see them getting anything from this game. Liverpool too strong. I'm going to go 2-0 to the Reds. Man United still involved in the Champions League as well. I back them to get the job done just there. I'm going to go 3-1 against Sheffield United, who have been shocking, haven't they? I mean, a minus 50 goal difference with 10 games left of the season. And a tricky fixture for Man City, travelling to Brighton. I'm going to say that Man City get the job done here because Brighton have collapsed just a little bit. They're not the team they were last season, I don't think. You start to see De Zerbi kicking up a little bit of a stink with some of the things that are going on behind the scenes, particularly in and around the Europa League exit to Roma. There was a lot of negativity coming out of him towards his higher-ups. So I think Man City will get the job done there, but I think it's going to be a close game. We're pretty much caught up now to real life. Now, not all of the fixtures are going to be in exactly the right order because some are still subject to change depending on European positioning and stuff like that. So bear with me. We're going to go through game week by game week. And we're going Newcastle to beat West Ham. Fairly inconsequential in the mid-table, I think. Maybe a Europa Conference League spot up for grabs there. Even Europa League. But Bournemouth against Everton. I think Bournemouth under Iraola will be too strong there. I'm going to go 3-1. Everton losing again. Chelsea against Burnley. I mean, Chelsea against low blocks struggle. So I'm going to go a bit closer than you think, but I still think Burnley will lose that game. Now, Nottingham Forest have to be a bit careful. After that 4-point deduction they suffered, of course, it has gone to appeal. I'm starting to worry a little bit about them. The form isn't amazing. 2 wins in the last 10. A 1-year needs to get back to fitness. Chris Wood also had an injury scare as well. Yeah, I think they'll have just enough to stay up because I think, you know, the likes of Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White are strong enough to keep them in the division. So I'm going to go for a draw against Ollie Glasner's Palace. Sheffield United, I don't see them getting anything against Fulham, who are in really good form, playing really, really well under Marco Silva, taking scalps left, right and centre. I wouldn't want to play them across the second half of the season. You know, Manice is just scoring for fun. Tottenham are going to have too much for Luton. I think Villa versus Wolves is a lot closer than you think. Wolves are right up there if they win their games in hand. Their goal difference is not too bad. So I'm going to put this down as a draw. Villa, I think, are suffering a little bit from Europa League tiredness. They've picked up 5 wins in the last 10. They've conceded 17 across that period, I think. Boubacar Kamara's season-ending injury hasn't helped. John McGinn's recklessness in tackles hasn't helped. Brentford versus Manchester United. This could be anything, man. This really could be anything. Man United, of course, hopeful to have Lisandro Martinez and Casemiro back fit for this one. I think this could be a draw. I'm going to go 1-1 as well. I think Manchester United still look very, very sloppy. I mean, 12th by expected goals, 14th by expected goals against. I think you can use a metric called expected points to see where they should be sat if the league had kind of conformed to XG, and they'd be like 12th or 13th. I think despite the little stumble we've seen from Liverpool, 1 win in the last 3, of course, crashing out to the FA Cup to Manchester United, big mental stumbling block potentially. They need to get back on track quickly, and I think they will against Brighton. I don't see Brighton getting anything at Anfield, to be honest with you. And then we have the big one, a massive fixture on Super Sunday between Man City and Arsenal. We've spoken about how good Arsenal have been since that FA Cup loss, just imperious, really. But Manchester City, slyly, I think it's 17 wins in 19 games for them. 2 draws coming against Liverpool and Chelsea, if I remember rightly. They are still in scintillating form. They really are. Haaland has 10 in 10, although 5 of them did come against Luton, didn't they, in 1 game. So he scored in 6 of his last 10 games. Lots of people have said Arsenal need to win this game to put down a marker. I've seen pundits saying that left, right and centre. I think a draw is fine for Arsenal, and I think they get it. I think Arsenal have looked better than Man City this season. Just not necessarily on the numbers, just watching them play football. I think Arsenal's style of play is so good to watch. It's so dominating. They've proven they can take points off Man City already this season. We laugh as well. They also beat them in the Community Shield, so technically 2 wins in 2 games. Because I think prior to that, it was 1 in the last 16 matches against Manchester City. So I'm going to go for a draw there. That means Liverpool obviously leapfrog to the top of the table, 2 points clear, 3 points clear of Man City. And crucially for Liverpool, that goal difference starts to come into effect, doesn't it? Man City's is quite low as it stands. You know, it's 12 goals behind a team like Arsenal if results go as I've expected. Moving to match week 31, we're going to speed up a bit here. I'm going to go Forest to draw against Fulham. I'm going to go Newcastle to beat Everton. Don't see them getting anything from that game, although they do have that sort of freak result in them occasionally away from home, don't they? We've seen it against the likes of Brighton where they've travelled there and just suddenly scored a bucket load. I don't think it happens against Newcastle. Burnley, sadly, I just think that they are going to go down. I just don't see them having the defensive solidity or the goal scorer to keep them in the division. West Ham, I think, might get something against Tottenham. There's something to be said for the counter-attacking nature of that West Ham side with a player like Jared Bowen, Paqueta coming back to fitness as well, the experience of Mikel Antonio, and Tottenham potentially still without Mickey van der Ven. Now, we don't know the seriousness of that sort of thigh injury. It's not as bad as the hamstring injury he previously suffered, but if it does keep him out of this fixture, I think that's a big, big loss. Arsenal will have way too much for Luton. I'm going to go 4-0 there. I think Man City will have too much for Villa. 3-0 there. Liverpool, I mean, this, I'm going to go 8-0, honestly. I think that could be an utter bloodbath. Shocking numbers could be scored, and that could be a record. Chelsea against Manchester United. United's record, they're okay, actually. But I think Chelsea might be too strong. I'm I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea against Man United. What you can see at the bottom of the table starting to develop is a bit of a gap forming. 5 points now between Luton and Forest. Forest obviously are appealing the points deduction. Everton could yet be hit by another points deduction. We don't know, and I can't predict what's going to happen with those points deductions, but with the points and potentially the goal difference, it's starting to look worrying for the 3 newly promoted sides. Crystal Palace's record against Man City is not bad, but I think this is the part of the season where Man City really start to turn up the heat. You know, we're seeing Rodri 60-plus games unbeaten for Manchester City, aren't we? In and around this period, though, they do have Real Madrid. I think it is match week 32 sort of timings that the European fixtures recommence. So they will be having quarterfinals against one of the best teams in Europe. So they might have to rest a couple of players. Fortunately, they have the depth to do that. I think they're going to win 3-1. Aston Villa to beat Brentford, who I've been really unimpressed with this season. Really unimpressed with. Across the last 10 games, I think they sit 17th in the form table, just 2 wins, 23 goals conceded. The back line, not as strong as it was. Ivan Toney, I think missing 6 months with the Mbermo injury haven't helped. But I don't see them getting a result against Villa. I think Everton, Burnley, this is a big game, a crunch game. I'm going to go 1-0, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Fulham get the job done against Newcastle. Luton, I'm going to go take something here, not 21. I'm going to say they take something off of Bournemouth. Wolves, I'm going to go beat West Ham. Brighton against Arsenal. Now, Brighton have been kind of a little bit of a thorn in the side of Arsenal's title run-ins, haven't they? Or last season. I'm going to go, they take a point off Arsenal. And that'll be a big blow for Arsenal. Manchester United against Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool going to be looking for revenge big time because Man United fans, we have been giving it to Liverpool after that FA Cup. I think this is going to be a draw. I'm going to go 1-1. Sheffield United going to get smacked up by Chelsea. I'm going to go 4-0. And then Tottenham, well, they'll have enough to beat Nottingham Forest. I don't see a problem for them there. Newcastle against Tottenham. I'm going to go for a draw. Tough place to go, St James's Park, classically. I think Brentford will have too much for Sheffield United. Burnley against Brighton, I just don't see. I feel like I've been really harsh on the promoted 3, but Burnley just, I don't see where the goals come from. I really don't see where the goals come from. I'm going to go 1-0 to the Brighton. City, going to blow Luton away there. Forest beat Wolves. That's going to be a dramatic points changer for the bottom of the league. It really is. Bournemouth, I don't think we'll beat Man United there. I think United will win the game. Liverpool will beat Palace. Let's go 3-0. West Ham against Fulham. Not much to play for here, so let's just put it down as a draw. Arsenal against Villa. Could Unai Emery act a bit of revenge here? Could he? Again, in and around European fixtures, though. Aston Villa have Lille, don't they, in Europe. Arsenal will be playing probably second legs against Bayern Munich, I presume, in here. This is a tough game for Arsenal with European leg syndrome. They're fortunate they're playing another team with European leg syndrome in here. I'm going to go 2-0. I think they get the job done. That defence is just so sound, so solid. Saliba and Gabriel just look masterful. Jurriën Timber could be back by then. I think they get the job done, as the Chelsea. We're at match week 34, where I think Aston Villa will beat Bournemouth. Brighton against Chelsea. I'm going to say Brighton gets something in this game, despite Chelsea taking 150,000 staff members from the club. Palace against West Ham. Let's go 2-1 Palace. Everton against Forest. This is a huge game. The points deduction derby. Let's go for a draw. 1-1. Fulham against Liverpool. I would not want to travel to Fulham if I was Liverpool. It's a tricky place to go, as we've seen this season for the likes of, Tottenham, who went there and got an absolute whipping. Weren't at their best, though. I'm going to go points dropped here for Liverpool. I'm going to go for a 1-1. Luton will draw against Brentford, 2-2. Man United will have too much for Newcastle, 2-0. Sheffield United versus Burnley. Let's go 0-0, because both teams are just shot to pieces. Then we have Man City travelling to Tottenham. The ground they never win at, although they have won recently. But classically, they have a bit of a hoodoo going here. And I think that might continue. I'm going to go 1-0 Tottenham. I think this could be the stumbling block for Manchester City. A trip to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in and around European fixtures. I also think this could be a bit of a stumbling block for Arsenal. But I'm going to say no. They get the job done. 2-0, late goals. And I think that's going to have a dramatic effect on the top of the table. It absolutely is. Arsenal leapfrog Liverpool, top of the table on goal difference. Very, very tight, by the way, the goal difference. This league table is so difficult to call. Man United now 5 points back on Aston Villa, so maybe don't discount them. Aston Villa against Chelsea, I think that might end as a draw. Everton 1, Brentford 1. Fulham against Palace, let's say Fulham get the result there. I think Man United will beat Burnley there. Newcastle, definitely going to beat Sheffield United. Forest against City. Now, Forest have looked extremely vulnerable against teams that dominate the ball. So I'm going to go 4-1. Tottenham against Arsenal, and this is where fixture congestion really starts to come into account. Because between the 14th and the 27th of April, Tottenham don't have a game. 0 games in that 13-day span. Arsenal have 4. So fixture congestion really comes into account here, I think. And I think Tottenham's fresh legs, they're just going to be so keen to take points of Arsenal here. And I reckon they do. I reckon Tottenham beat Arsenal, which is going to be an absolute hammer blow for Mikel Arteta's side. I don't see them getting anything against Liverpool, and I think Wolves will beat Luton. Again, the top of the table, Liverpool are looking really strong in my predictions here. I think Brighton as well might take something off of Villa. Villa look like they're running out of steam recently, man. Just a little bit. Palace are going to lose to Man United 2-1. Liverpool Spurs, what a massive game. But Liverpool are going to get the job done. 3-1 against Tottenham. Luton against Everton. This is a huge game, isn't it? Although, not according to my points tally, because if you look down here, they're 10 points clear here. Everton, they're safe, really. But I still think Luton might beat them. Man City are going to beat Wolves, although that'll be a tougher game than people give City credit for. And then Sheffield United are going to lose to Nottingham Forest. Man United now 1 point back on Aston Villa. 4 points back on Tottenham. Bottom of the table, still clear. For me, that the 3 promoted sides are going down. I think Aston Villa will lose to Liverpool. I think Liverpool are just going to be too strong for Villa at this stage. Everton are going to beat Sheffield United. Oh, City have got to travel to Fulham. I think City will get the job done, but that's going to be a really close game. United Arsenal, second to last game of the season. I mean, some of these fixtures, again, like I said, are going to move. So I think there might be some fixtures squeezed in between 37 and 38. I think Tottenham Man City might get moved in between 37 and 38. Man United 1, Arsenal 1. And I think United could be a real sort of sticking point for Arsenal. If they get the job done there, wow. That means Man United now level with Villa, 65 points. I wrote them off earlier in the video. They've made a miraculous comeback. The boys down here are basically relegated. In fact, they are relegated at this stage before the final game of the season. But I've been very harsh on Palace as well. I've just noticed Palace are down in 17th. I think that's probably a symptom of me not caring about the results I'm inputting for them. Because Ollie Glasner will probably have them more like 14th. Okay, final match week of the season. Jesus, Arsenal can't win the league. I had Arsenal down to win it, man. I've got Liverpool top on the final day. Coming into this video, I thought Arsenal would win it. So Arsenal are going to beat Everton on the final day. Of that, I have very little doubt. I think Brentford will draw against Newcastle. Man United got to go to Brighton on the final day. And I think they'll draw there. Palace. Oh, Villa have got to go to Palace as well. Very difficult. I'm going to go draw there as well. Liverpool at home against Wolves. I just don't see any way that that's not a Liverpool win. The thing is, final days, it's always difficult, isn't it? Like, one shock result always happens. One scrub result. Like, Wolves score early and put the pressure on. And then it's like 2-1. I think City will have too much there. I'm going to 3-0. I'm going to go 1-1. 1-1? No, Sheffield United get blitzed by Spurs. Let's see what this finally does to the table. And I've got Liverpool winning it on 90 points. City just back on 88. Arsenal 85. Wow. I really thought I was going to have Arsenal down as champions. But when I've gone through this, I think maybe Liverpool's fixtures favour them. Goodness me. What a send-off that would be for Klopp. Got United missing out on goal difference. I do think United's goal difference is a huge issue. We look at it effectively being a 6-point gap, but it's 7 because the goal difference is painful. So I've got them missing out on goal difference. I've got the 3 relegated sides being the 3 promoted sides. I just don't think Luton are going to have enough. Unless there's another major points deduction for Everton, I'm going to stick with the 3 promoted sides going back down. The top of the table, like Chelsea clawed it right back. I'd kind of ignore in and around here because I wasn't really concentrating on some of these results like Bournemouth, West Ham, Palace. I can't believe I've got Liverpool winning it so comfortably. Let me know what you think. Who is going to win the title?